Okay, hello, my name is Jessica Rogofsky. Ashley and I are doing Photosystems II.
Our presentation will be piggybacking off the Photosystem 1 presentation, so be sure to watch that one first, as a lot of Photosystem 2 occurs simultaneously with Photosystem 1.
Our three main points include chloroplast having two connected photosystems.
You'll often see that the photosystems will be abbreviated as PS1 or PS2.
Plants use Photosystems II and Photosystems I in a series that is described in a Z diagram.
It's important to note that the Z diagram depicts light and how it is used during photosynthesis.
And the last main point included is the role of B6F complex in the photosynthetic electron transport system. So what goes on inside chloroplast? Inside the chloroplast right here is a diagram. As you can see, we have Photosystems II, and then we have Photosystems I. This is just a small little diagram. We'll get more into detail later, but right down at the bottom of where it says Photosystems II, you can see a number that says P680. P680 is the absorption peak, which is at 680 nanometers. So its reaction center pigment is called P680, which is different from Photosystems I. As you can see, it says P700, so its absorption peak is at 700 nanometers instead of 680.
Actually, one of the best ways to remember this is that a wavelength of about 680 or 700 nanometers correlates to red. It's on the far right end of the electromagnetic spectrum of visible light. When red is absorbed, its complementary color is green. I know many of you may not know the color wheel, but think of like red or green color blindness. If red is absorbed, green will reflect. And as you know, the chloroplasts are usually green, and the chlorophyll in the chloroplast gives off a green pigment. So that's just one way that I've used colors to memorize the absorbance spectrum of PS2 or PS1.
And then over to the right, you can see that NADPH and ATP are more bolded. That's because both ATP and NADPH are generated from this process. And then something else you should know, just a little fun fact, is that Photosystems II and Photosystems I were actually named in order of discovery. Obviously not in the order in which they operate, because right here you can see that Photosystems II comes before Photosystems I.
And just bouncing off of what Jessica said about the 2 and the 1 on PS2 and PS1 don't really correlate with the sequence in which they both occur. In fact, PS2 actually occurs before PS1 most of the time because PS2 involves the oxidation of water, and when those electrons are lost through the oxidation, those are the electrons that are actually used to kind of power up Photosystem 1. As you'll see in the diagram on the next slide, the electrons that from Photosystem 2 go over to the excited reaction center, which also helps Photosystem 1 occur.
And just going through it really quickly, it passes the excited electron through the electron transport chain to Photosystems I, and it's replaced an excited electron pass to NADPH, which is the end of the process. Over here, something else that you may be able to see is right before you get to Photosystems I, you can see the B6F complex. We'll get more into that in the next diagram. Okay, and this is the next diagram where we will get more into the B6F complex. And this is a thylakoid membrane.
Actually quite easy to remember that Photosystem 2 reactions take place on the thylakoid membrane. This is because, as we know, the photosystems are part of the Z diagram, which involves light-dependent reactions. So that means that photosystems are light-dependent reactions. If the antenna complexes on the photosystem areas have kind of a blanket or in this case, the membrane covering it, light cannot reach it, therefore the photosynthesis cannot even occur.
And for every pair of electron that is obtained from this water molecule at the beginning of the process, one NADPH and an ATP molecule are produced. And so right here, when it's absorbing those two photons from the sun, it's getting passed to PQ right here. And then the B6F complex is what is absorbing that electron from PQ, and it's passing it to PC. But that B6F complex is the primary electron acceptor for that light energized electron. So it's what is it called? It's energetic electron pair. That's what I'm looking for. The energetic electron pair causes that B6F complex to pump this extra proton into the thylakoid space, which you can see that extra hydrogen atom at the bottom, which is creating that extra ATP molecule. That is how the ATP is synthesizing. So it's getting passed from PQ, creating that extra proton, getting passed to PC, and then moving on to photosystems 1, which is creating that NADPH and that ATP.
All that there is really left to say is that you need to remember that the process of making ATP as well as NADPH is a cyclic reaction. As we know, the sun is always going to be the sun, hopefully, fingers crossed. And so the thylakoid membrane will always be receiving photons from the sun, meaning that this reaction can occur over and over again.